although griefers aren't really a big problem in Red Dead Online, they do exist, and they're not completely unknown. And in fact, the game does kind of encourage them sometimes. I'm talking in particular about, for example, the rival trader notifications that you get, which tell people to go shoot another player and steal his wagon load. Which, although the game does allow, and it's supposed to be part of the game, I guess, in fact, it's specifically encouraged by the designers, the reality, of course, is that everybody hates it, and everybody knows that people who do that are griefers. I haven't had that happen to me a lot, but I have had it happen to me a couple of times, and it's a real pain because I don't run with a posse, and of course you're not super maneuverable on a wagon, and if you get attacked by somebody else's posse on horseback, you're pretty screwed. There's not much you can do except for bail out of the session and start again. I mean, you can try and chase those guys down and take your wagon back, but I mean, realistically, it's not going to work unless you've got a posse too. Anyway, be that as it may, like I said, occasionally griefers do pop up, and the other day I was in Rhodes. I was actually in the general store outfit. What do you call that place? The wardrobe. Filming my outfit descriptions, or recording that, and I came out of the store, got on my horse, and opened up my map so I could mark a spot over in the eastern Cumberland forest. I had a daily challenge. I needed to pick some violet snowdrops, and I knew that there were a bunch of them out there. My controller started vibrating, and I got off my map and realized that some guy had pulled me off my horse and was trying to have a fist fight with me. So I proceeded to beat him up and kill him. He spawned and came at me again, so I shot him. He spawned and came at me again. He had this whole thing, and it was really odd. He kept chasing me down, and I killed him probably a dozen times. Granted, he killed me twice too, but I killed him probably a dozen times. And I switched after a while to explosive ammo because I was starting to get a little irritated. Although, to be honest with you, I was also in equal parts amused because this guy really wasn't very good. And I don't know exactly what he thought he was accomplishing by griefing me, because I was obviously killing him a lot more than he was killing me. I did, though, get kind of annoyed because, like I said, I was actually kind of task-oriented at the moment, and I needed to go do, one more daily challenge, and then I was going to get off and call into, my first work meeting of the day. And so I ended up not being able to do that daily challenge until later. But anyway, I've got the footage of this griefer trying to grief me. It was kind of strange. Like I said, I did die twice, but I killed him a lot more times than I died, and it was just very odd that he was so persistent. He kept reappearing and chasing me down, and I was really trying my best to kind of just ignore him as much as possible. I wasn't trying to be all in his grill. I wasn't trying to smash him back. I was just kind of like, dude, I just want some violet snowdrops. Leave me freaking alone. Anyway, another quick aside. I watch a lot of YouTube videos about Red Dead when I get a chance, which shouldn't be terribly surprising. So YouTube also suggests more Red Dead videos to me because I do that. And I got one video suggested to me, and I went and watched it, and it was a whole little series, and I watched the whole thing. It was by a girl named Abigail Pinehaven, and it was called Realistic Roleplay in Red Dead Redemption. And she basically created these little cinematic movies about horse riding, and it is completely divorced from the setting in which the game takes place. There aren't any outlaws, there aren't any bad people, there aren't any even dangerous wild animals. It's just her and her friend at McFarland Ranch training their horses and then going for a little cross-country ride. And there's this whole series of it. There's like 7 videos now. And it's shocking to me that this kind of thing even exists because it's so different than the tone and the theme of the game. But it, of course, utilizes the game. She has these custom characters in Red Dead Online. It utilizes the game to do something that it wasn't meant to do, but which it does really quite well. And it's, like I said, it's kind of amazing that this thing even exists at all. It's kind of funny, too, because it's actually surprisingly charming how unabashedly girly it all is, because it is just all about the horses and how she feels, and the intro music and graphics are all kind of pink and purple and sparkly, and it was just shocking. And I was so amazed that this thing even existed that I couldn't look away. I watched the whole series, and there's 7 videos. They're 10 minutes, maybe a little less sometimes each. I didn't watch them all at once, but I did end up watching them all, even though it's totally not my kind of thing. But I couldn't get over how unashamedly feminine it was, and how it did so within Red Dead Online. So it's amazing to me. This game has a lot of things that it can surprise you even now. One of the things I was not surprised by on the last video, I actually made a comment. I says I'm shocked that this even exists, but YouTube recommended it to me, and it's charming how I said basically the same thing I said here. It's charming how unabashedly girly it all is. And then I kind of said the only thing that it's missing to be even more girly is the potential romantic triangle between the stern and quiet but handsome and surprisingly sensitive ranch hand versus the fun-loving, rich, and sophisticated son of the ranch owner. And I kind of threw that out there. Again, it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I mean, I was complimenting her, but also I was complimenting her by talking about how incredibly girly it was, and so it probably came across as kind of a playful neg. If you're familiar at all with the concept of negs. And sure enough, out of all of the comments, and she has probably 50 of them as of right now. That video actually was uploaded just very recently. And as of me recording this, had only been up for about an hour. I posted that. I'm the only comment she responded to, and she responded within a minute. So, don't go around thinking that women are all mysterious and that men can't understand them. I was able to prompt the response that I wanted, and it was a playful one. And not that I'm trying to flirt with her. She's like a 19-year-old girl, and I'm a pushing 50-year-old man. I've got daughters who are older than her. Well, I have a daughter who's older than her. But it reminded me, though, if I can be forgiven a brief aside, it reminded me of why we like girls in the first place. And I kind of tend to have a negative attitude about girls of her generation, which is my kids' generation. I have mostly boys. I have one daughter and I have several boys. And I think most of the girls of their generation are kind of bratty, entitled, narcissistic little princesses. I don't think that they're charming. I don't think that they're likable. It's not difficult to imagine why guys aren't really very interested in them, quite honestly. And yet that's a generalization. Obviously there are exceptions. This girl's very, very girly, and I found it refreshing. Anyway, let's move on a little bit to what we want to talk about Red Dead again. One thing that I also saw that I think is a great idea, why haven't we seen Outlaw Pass number 3? The Outlaw Pass, I'm sure they wanted to do it as part of the update, but given that they haven't, and couldn't probably because they couldn't get the update, why couldn't they just send us out the Outlaw Pass? There's very little new work required to implement an Outlaw Pass. The coding is very minimal. What are the kind of things you get in an Outlaw Pass? You get some outfits, you get ammo dumps, you get collector dumps, you get flags for your camp, maybe a theme or two for crypts to wear, you get gold bonuses, you get cash bonuses, you get masks for your horse, you get a few clothing items here and there. You get stuff that most of it's off the shelf, and if they have to design a horse mask or two and maybe an outfit or two, that's something that can be modeled very quickly. And in fact, there's a lot of stuff off the shelf that they could use. There's a lot of clothing in single player that's never come over. There's a lot of clothing that NPCs wear that you can't get for your player in either single player or online, either one. So why haven't they given us an Outlaw Pass? Their first Outlaw Pass went for, I think, 7 or 8 weeks. Within 2 weeks, the second one started, and it ended. And now it's been 11 weeks since it ended. It lasted for 14 weeks, I think, but it was a long one. But if they had had one kind of ready to go when that one ended, then we could be almost done with it by now. And other games who have similar functions have done exactly that. And it would be something for us to do to grind through while we're sitting here waiting for the update. What they really should have done is gone ahead and given us Outlaw Pass number 3, and then in the meantime worked up an Outlaw Pass number 4 that could come with their update if their update has to be delayed, which obviously it has been. So it's a real shame that they haven't given us something to grind. I think we really kind of need it. Even I, who've been complaining about the longtime players and their complaints, am starting to feel a little bit of the boredom, and I'm kind of like, what do I want to do today when I log on? And I do some daily challenges, and I started to dig a little deeper into the daily challenges because, something a little bit less tedious to do. Let's do some bounties, that's actually something kind of fun. Let's maybe go back and do stranger missions again, which I haven't really done very much of lately. But, I'm kind of feeling it. I feel like there is more that needs to be done. Anyway, this is an outfit video, even though I've now talked for over 10 minutes and I started off by not showing outfits. This is the black mask, my kind of alter ego, if you will, that I envisioned for my character. And it was loosely based on the Lone Ranger, using the balloonist goggles, the dark balloonist goggles for the Lone Ranger's mask. And although, my character doesn't necessarily look like the Lone Ranger, especially because he wears all black, that's really kind of where the thing started. And the Lone Ranger, of course, started as a radio show in Detroit long ago and became very popular. It was kind of probably loosely based on Zorro. There's some challenges with the Lone Ranger story. For one thing, he apparently he doesn't have an alter ego. He doesn't really ever take the mask off. His alter ego is supposedly dead, and now he's just always anonymous no matter what. He never takes his mask off. He's also got this kind of bizarre attitude, although it kind of makes some sense given the time that it was done. Although it also is bizarre, and I don't like it, where he tries really hard not to ever kill people. He's not really much of a vigilante when he shoots to disarm and shoots guns out of everybody's hand all the time, instead of, shooting these outlaws who are trying to kill him. I think it's a little strange that he does that. Of course, in the newest movie, they rebranded that aspect of him into him being a smug, self-righteous, gun control liberal in his attitude. And of course that just made him absolutely the most unlikable person ever. And for a main character, he was completely unable to carry the movie because he was a terrible person that nobody liked. He's just a misery to be around. He's a shrieking scold. He's a finger-wagging school marm, and he's supposed to be basically an action hero. So what a mistake that was. Anyway, the Lone Ranger lasted for a long time. Clayton Williams was the star of a show that ran for many years and was super popular back in kind of the heyday of the Westerns. He still made appearances as the Lone Ranger, wearing a mask and costume, up till his death in 1999. Although I've got to wonder by 1999 how many people, especially younger people who presumably he would have made appearances to, would even remember him or even remember the character for that matter. The Lone Ranger is, unless like me, you grew up seeing old TV shows on TV here and there, you probably don't even know who he is. And I watched from time to time, they used to show a lot of reruns when I was a kid, and my dad also found a lot of reruns, so I'm pretty sure I saw the Lone Ranger Republic serial at some point, and I saw some of the Clayton Williams show. There was a movie in 1981 that came out called The Legend of the Lone Ranger, and unfortunately it was a bit of a flop but it was, in part, it wasn't because the movie itself was terrible. Although it isn't good, it isn't really terrible, but there was just some incredibly boneheaded corporate decisions made. Like they kind of went after Clayton Williams and tried to stop him from wearing his mask in public appearances, and it just generated all this bad will in the audience. All they heard about the movie is that they were pissed off at the movie makers for doing such a thing. I actually watched it recently. You can stream it. You can rent it to stream from Amazon Prime. And like I said, it's not a great movie, but it's not terrible. It has a star who apparently only ever made that one role, and his voice was dubbed after it was filmed, so he must not have been the best, I guess. But I didn't think he was terrible. The movie nominally takes place in Texas, but it was obviously filmed in places that are very recognizably elsewhere. There's like Vasquez Rocks, and which is, I think, within the LA city limits even. If not, it's just right outside of it. There's Monument Valley, which is right on the Utah-Arizona border. There's somewhere up in the mountains where, even though it's summertime, there's sizable patches of snow that you can see, and none of that stuff exists in Texas. So that was kind of funny. Even then, there was some political correctness. 1981, in particular with regards to the Indians, and I've talked a little bit about the Indians in my last episode, but it wasn't that bad. It was 1981, for crying out loud. There was another 2003 made-for-TV movie called The Lone Ranger, which was meant to be the pilot of a new show, but the show was never picked up. I don't think it was a big hit. I've actually never seen that one, but it looks like you can probably find a low-resolution copy of it on YouTube, so I'm going to try and watch it just to see. And then, of course, there's the 2013 flop Lone Ranger, and I briefly mentioned that, of course, it's the problem with this is that the character was so incredibly unlikable, and the movie took every opportunity it could to insult what should have been the core audience for it. And so maybe this isn't shocking. It actually performed better overseas than it did in America. It really underperformed dramatically in America and is considered a major flop. But it didn't perform quite so badly overseas because it didn't go out of its way to insult audiences overseas like it did audiences in America. Anyway, my character, the Black Mask, it's not really an alter ego. I don't really think about it. Like, I'm going to switch to the Black Mask. It's just a concept for some outfits. I have a cold, hot, and average temperature version. I've made them many different ways over the last few months, and I do have some slight things that I change about them every time I remake them. But overall, the concept is the same. You wear the balloonist goggles as a mask, and you wear all black. And that's kind of it. I actually didn't even use my favorite black hat this time. I kind of experimented with some different black hats just to give him some different looks. And I might make other versions of it again in the future where I do it a little bit differently. I do have, and I think I said this before, for whatever reason, I have a lot of black clothing. I have a lot of brown leather colored clothing. So it's easy for me to make stuff all black. I wish it were a little bit easier for me to add some color to my characters, but it's really, unfortunately, hasn't been. Anyway, hope you like this outfit.